What's up guys, it's Mitch here from the DIYRecordingstudio.com, and today we're going to be doing an unboxing of the DIYRE OLA5. It's a DIY 500 series opto compressor, and it's going to be my very next build in the studio, so let's get into it. So welcome back to the channel guys, and by now you should all know that we reached 1,000 subscribers, so thank you once again. It's so awesome to have reached that milestone, and I couldn't have done it without all you guys just supporting me and taking part in the conversations on this channel. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below, and make sure you stay updated with all the awesome content that we have coming. Now speaking of awesome new content, I've got something really exciting this week, and it's this behind me right here. I got this package from DIYRE. And if you don't know who they are, it basically says it in the name, DIYRE. They're an audio company that's based around delivering DIY type mic preamps, compressors, microphones in a DIY format, so people like me can build their kits, but you can also buy their equipment pre-built if you're interested in that as well. And what we're going to be unboxing today is the OLA5 Opto Compressor. So it's a 500 series opto compressor, similar to the LA2, LA3, and LA4 style opto compressors that are famous and found in many studios. Now what's interesting about this one is that it's actually based on the notorious LA4A, which is way less popular than the original LA2A because of its infamously bad IC chips. They're supposed to sound pretty rough and a bit dirty and gritty, and some people like the unit for that, but most people don't, and that's why the LA2 and the LA3A are a bit more utilized in professional studio spaces. But what Perterson has cleverly done with this compressor is change out those infamously bad IC chips and then also add a really interesting amplification stage using transformers to add some more mojo and some depth and warmth to the circuit. And it's going to be a really interesting build, and I should disclose that Perterson has sent me this unit and I get to keep it after I've built it, but he's also in no way paying for my opinion or my review throughout the build and the review of this product. So the opinion and views that you'll see throughout the build process of this video are mine entirely, but for the purpose of being transparent, I just want you guys to know that he was kind enough to send me this for review. And while we're at it, I just want to say thanks to Perterson and the team at DIYRE for sending me this kit. It's going to be a really exciting build. But that's enough from me. Let's get into the unboxing. Oh, this is cool. So what we can see first is the main packaging here. And we can see the actual kind of finished product that's going to be here. Some circuit boards. And everything basically seems to be mostly in this packet here, which we might open up in a second. But it contains the manual for operation, which is cool, and probably a lot of build instructions. And I can see some IC chips here, the main circuit board here, and all the various components are kind of seem to be in there. Then we have Red 25 discrete op amp. Most of the op amp components are actually surface mount components on this one, but it does have a couple of larger transistors to solder in, and a couple of little resistors I think in there as well. So there's going to be just a few components to solder to that op amp, but it's not going to be as tricky as a traditional op amp, which you might have seen in our previous op amp videos. They can be quite tricky, but this one might be quite a lot easier, I'd figure, seeing that most of it is smaller and surface mounted already, and then we've just got to put a few components in there. So that's cool. That'll be a bit different. And then, last but not least, we have the vintage output. And when I spoke to Perterson about this unit, it had two options. Basically, you have two options for this compressor. It can have the vintage output or the modern output. The modern output doesn't have a transformer, and the vintage output obviously has this transformer in here, which we'll have a look at. But even if you install the vintage output, there's actually a jumper apparently on the main circuit board where you can opt to use the vintage output or bypass it in the output stage so you have a more modern sound, which is a pretty cool design. So we'll see how that goes once we get to that build video. But let's open up this box now. So first up in here we have some resistors, some capacitors, and that's obviously to do with the transformer part of the circuit. And then in the box we have the transformer itself nicely wrapped, which is always good. And here we go. We've got to have this nice and hefty output transformer and all its wires. These will solder into the main circuit board, and this will give us that more vintage output sound. Put that back in. Let's just have a look at the actual components now that are in this main bag. Oh, that's cool. So they're all actually numbered, and I'm assuming that this numbering system probably lines up with the instruction manual. And if that's the case, that's very cool. So we have bags like this, 3, and then I think they're sub-numbered under that, because I can see a 1 and a 2 under this. So for instance, this is bag 1, the resistors, and then there's sub-bags numbered 1, 2, and 3. So they're in different stages or different parts of the instruction manual. That is very, very comprehensive as far as an instruction layout goes. I've never seen that in any of the kits that I've built so far. So shout out to Perterson and everyone else at DIYRE for that idea. That's very DIY friendly. Cool. So that's bag 1, a bunch of resistors. Bag 2 is a bunch of IC sockets. I can also see some headers in there. If you look closely down here, there's a little jumper. Bag 3 has a bunch of capacitors in it. Also a larger transistor and some LEDs. Bag 4 has the larger capacitors. Bag 5 has a bunch of switches and potentiometers. Bag 6 is an interesting one. It has some switches, an IC, some IC sockets, a circuit board there, and even this ribbon cable here. And I would say that this is for this circuit board here, this whole bag, and that it's probably for the LEDs on the front plate, on the face plate of the unit. So I'm sure that's what that circuit is. In bag 7, we have a bunch of spacers. Oh, this is interesting. The LEDs here and these little circuits. I'm pretty sure all of this is actually for the opto circuit. I think this is all our opto circuit there for what actually guides the compression. So that's going to be super interesting. Then in bag 8, as we saw before, we have those IC chips. Bag 9, we have our dials for the faceplate and washers and nuts and an Allen key, which is pretty cool. And here's our faceplate for the front of the 500 series unit. There's even a bag 0, which is the whole circuit board. And this printed circuit board actually looks pretty neatly arranged so that soldering the components is going to be nice and easy. Everything is clearly labeled. And yeah, looks all pretty good. This is probably the most organized I've ever seen a DIY kit. So very, very cool. Very, very, once again, DIY friendly. This is probably the most comprehensive sorting out of components I've ever seen in a DIY kit. So very, very cool. And then last but not least, the operation guide. So just some instructions on how to actually use the compressor. I actually just remembered that the build directions are actually online, available on the website to download and stuff like that. So, but yeah, very cool. It's going to be a very exciting project. I can't wait to get into this build. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed the unboxing of the DIYRE OLA5 Opto Compressor for the 500 series format. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. This is going to be an amazing build and I'm super excited to see the finished product. I'm Mitch from thediyrecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.